Ramon Ontiveros' conspiracy to defraud the U.S. immigration system, a political indictment of American hypocrisy. Ramon Ontiveros' conspiracy to defraud the U.S. immigration system is not a crime committed in the shadows. It is a parable of American power, how it is learned, how it is practiced, how it is weaponized against those the nation refuses to see. We want to believe that corruption is an anomaly, that abuse is a stain rather than a blueprint. But Ontiveros did not invent his scheme, he inherited it. He did not fight against the system, he flowed with it like water following the shape of the container. A UTEP business graduate, an English speaker, an employer with a logo, he is the American success story disfigured into its truest form. A man who realized that in the United States, you can turn lies into tools, fear into currency, and immigrants into collateral. And perhaps the most philosophical truth of all is this: he was not exceptional. He was predictable. It all began with a rumor, and America has always been a country that falls in love with its rumors. After an immigrant worker traveled briefly to Douglas, Arizona in January 2023, a former friend crafted a lie that he was smuggling drugs. There was no evidence, no witness, no confession, only the imagination of someone who understood how cheaply society prices an immigrant's reputation. In a country where suspicion is a form of entertainment, the rumor spread effortlessly into the hands of Ontiveros. What is a rumor to the powerful? A tool. What is a lie against an immigrant? A verdict. Foucault would have called it the production of truth through power, not power through truth. A world where the whisper of a citizen outweighs the testimony of an immigrant. The worker went to Arizona out of desperation, because Ontiveros had withheld his wages, because rent waits for no one, because hunger turns dignity into a negotiation. The trip itself dissolved into fear, confusion, panic, armed men outside a hotel, shadows moving in the dark, a fracture in memory that left him disoriented hours later. A traffic ticket confirmed he had been there. Fear confirmed he was still human. But when Ontiveros seized the rumor, truth ceased to matter. In the immigration context, truth is ornamental. Power is what decides. Ontiveros understood power with the intuition of someone who had studied it not in books, but in practice. He forced the worker to operate through a fake Facebook profile, an invented identity, a digital mask he did not choose. And as if summoned by intention rather than chance, strangers began sending messages about drugs and illicit trades. Too precise to be coincidence, too strategic to be randomness. It was a digital trapdoor, a way to build a narrative ahead of time, so that when the day came, Ontiveros could point to the screen and say, "Look, evidence." Kafka wrote that the system does not discover guilt, it manufactures it. Ontiveros took that lesson and digitized it. But manipulation has a way of mutating. When digital entrapment failed to corner the worker, Ontiveros escalated into outright immigration fraud. He urged him to apply for a U visa and lie to police, to confess to crimes he did not commit, to convert a rumor into sworn testimony, to turn himself into the protagonist of a fabricated story designed to protect the man exploiting him. Imagine the psychology behind such coercion. Make yourself guilty so that I can remain innocent. It is the morality of the powerful distilled into a single request. Arendt warned us about this kind of banality: evil disguised as procedure, cruelty disguised as help, fraud disguised as paperwork. When the worker refused to participate in the fraud, refused to surrender his truth for Ontiveros' benefit, the retaliation became immediate and predictable. He was terminated, slandered online, accused of threatening families he had never met, portrayed as dangerous, unstable, criminal. Every label that a system already predisposed to distrust immigrants would eagerly absorb. He was offered hush money to stop speaking. When he declined, Ontiveros turned to intimidation, stalking him, threatening him, invoking connections, using fear as a leash. You would think such behavior would provoke outrage, but Ontiveros wasn't improvising. He was following the unwritten rules of the American immigration system. If your victim is an immigrant, the consequences rarely reach you. Ontiveros allegedly boasted about manipulating his own immigration process, telling stories about convincing others to lie for him to secure his green card. Whether those claims were true or simply bravado, their philosophical weight is the same. He felt comfortable enough to treat deception as a legitimate pathway through American bureaucracy. And why wouldn't he? A system that routinely disbelieves immigrant victims and instinctively protects employers teaches men like him that lies are not risks, they are strategies. The deeper truth is that the United States trains Ontiveros types the way forests train fire, accidentally but consistently. It teaches them that a business license is a shield, that English fluency is a disguise, that an immigrant's fear is a resource to be extracted, and that the state is an accomplice as long as paperwork looks clean. Respectability becomes a mask that grants immunity. Accusation becomes a weapon. Vulnerability becomes guilt. A worker begging for wages becomes dangerous. A trafficker in a clean shirt becomes credible. And so the system looks away while Ontiveros exploits it. It looks away when wages become leverage. It looks away when deportation is used as a threat. It looks away when human trafficking hides behind a company logo instead of a chain. Americans imagine trafficking as captivity in a basement, but the real version is quieter. It is hunger, it is fear, it is dependence, it is silence. Ontiveros did not need to lock anyone inside a room. He simply needed to trap him inside the immigration system. Legally, Ontiveros' actions constitute a minefield of federal violations: conspiracy, immigration fraud, forced labor, trafficking, retaliation, cyberstalking, witness tampering. But legality is not where the soul of this crisis sits. The philosophical question is far more damning. How many of these crimes were even possible because the system itself silently agreed to allow them? The United States did not merely fail to stop Ontiveros. It enabled him. It armed him. It taught him the etiquette of exploitation. It placed an immigrant worker in a position where speaking the truth carried more danger than living inside a lie. It built institutions so steeped in suspicion, so allergic to immigrant pain, that Ontiveros' behavior did not register as aberration. It registered as business as usual. Kafka once warned that a system's greatest violence is not in what it punishes, but in what it ignores. The American immigration system ignores everything that does not fit neatly inside a form or a checkbox. It ignores hunger. It ignores fear. It ignores truth spoken in accented English. It ignores the cries of those whose very existence is bureaucratically inconvenient. Sometimes the government does not need to kill a man. It only needs to let him keep filling out forms until he disappears. Perhaps this is the most agonizing question in all of this. If a man can exploit an immigrant, starve him of wages, fabricate rumors against him, pressure him into federal fraud, intimidate him, threaten him, manipulate him, stalk him, lie about him, and still walk freely, then what does the U.S. immigration system actually protect? Justice? Or its own myth of fairness? Ontiveros' conspiracy is a political scandal, yes, but it is also an existential one. It forces us to confront the possibility that America is not failing its immigrants. It is functioning exactly as designed. A system that punishes need and rewards cruelty is not malfunctioning. It is merely revealing itself. Ontiveros may be the face of the conspiracy, but the machinery behind him is far larger. It is every rumor believed without evidence, every immigrant silenced without inquiry, every accusation trusted more when spoken by the powerful. The truth is that Ontiveros is not the anomaly. He is the symptom. The American immigration system is the disease. And unless this country confronts the reality that its institutions protect the Ontiveros of the world more readily than the people they harm, then the conspiracy continues. Not because of one man's actions, but because the system itself is blind by design.